Hey, Cut the Shit listeners. You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Go check us out. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Cut the Shit, a podcast series that aims to take a closer look at the impact of the IT industry, both the good and the bad. Cut the Shit is brought to you by Plow Networks, a managed IT services company based just outside Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Bryan Link, COO here at Plow, and I'll be your host for this series. I'll ask questions, and with the help of our guests, try to dig deep on some of the key challenges we all face dealing with IT. So with that, let's cut the shit and get started. Hello, and welcome to our first Cut the Shit After Hours of 2024. We're recording the third week of January, so we're a few weeks into the new year, but not so far that we can't spend some time talking about planning for the year, kickoffs, QBRs, that sort of thing. Felt like a good time to talk about that, and I figured you two are well positioned to do that since you've been to a lot of kickoffs, you've led a lot of kickoffs, you've done a bunch of QBRs, so it seemed like a good time to talk about it. So before we get started, I thought we might start with a couple of war stories. We'll keep them short. Since both of you grew up in the sales world, and there's very often sales kickoffs in the early part of the year, maybe give us a story. It's got to be, it can't be R-rated. Maybe upwards of PG-13, maybe PG-17. But I know there's a bunch of them. But why don't you give us one just to get us started? Whoever wants to go first.
I'm literally struggling to think of one that's clean enough.
All right. Well, I've got one.
I
got one. As you guys know, I didn't grow up in a big company world, so I never went to any kickoffs or any of that stuff. Like, that wasn't something that I did as part of my career really until probably 5-6 years ago, where I actually went to one of those. And the first one, and really the only one I ever went to, was it was a sales kickoff. I wasn't in sales. The product team went to be part of it to present to the sales team. So that was the only reason we were even there. We were sort of add-ons. We weren't the main event. But we got invited to all the stuff, and the I would call the final event. This is kind of what I was confused about. The big thing was actually the night before the last meeting, which I could not understand.
That's somewhat common because everybody travels home the next day.
Yeah, but there was supposed to be something going the next day, and it was a bash that night. It was like an 80s thing, so everybody dressed up in stupid clothes, and it was, it had a band. People were dancing. There was stuff happening that probably shouldn't have been happening, and it was still pretty early.
What would that be?
Well, what I said,
like bad dancing? Are you saying bad dancing?
There was some bad dancing, and there were people dancing together that was awkward. Let's just put it that way.
There's always like Ginger and her friends from Miami.
There was some of that. There's I didn't know that, and then there's like people dancing
Crazy
together.
Hot Matrix.
And then because this was the sales team, which I didn't know, and then of course everyone's like, oh well, they get together, and you start getting all the. It's like being back in high school,
dynamics,
like all the, And then, but here's the best part: they had a rap contest.
Oh,
did you enter?
Oh, come on, you kidding me? You know who my competition was? She was like 24. She was super cute, and she was convinced she was going to win.
And you knew
just because she was cute.
You knew you had it because
because she thought she was good.
Oh, okay.
But
she wasn't
well. She could only do one verse, and it was pure acapella. You got to do whatever you could do whatever you wanted.
It was 8 miles.
You couldn't keep going, but you had as much as you wanted. So she got up there and did this one little thing, and it was super short. It's like 10 seconds. I don't know. It was like Cardi B or not. It was Nicki Minaj. So it was hard, but it was real short.
What'd you flow?
Good Day by Ice Cube.
Wow.
And I finally
That's
stopped.
A good one,
I finally
nice
got to
and
a moment and
mellow.
stopped, and then I said, "Y'all want me to keep going?" And she said, "No, please stop."
You know what? Actually, the only reason you did that
fun.
and won is because Leanne wasn't there.
That's true because she would have
done
What
Baby
people
Got
don't know
Back.
about Brian's wife is she can hardcore throw down old school rap.
This is true.
To most
People would have to know Brian's wife to know that they don't know that about Brian's wife.
That's true. She's an accountant.
Yeah.
Let's put that out.
That even puts it out there even better.
That's true. It's true. Anyway, so that's mine. I mean, I only went to one, so I'm like a neophyte and not a lot of experience.
Well, you became the main event.
I did.
After not being the main event.
I did. It was fun.
You see how it happens.
I got a couple like quick funny ones that they're kind of funny. They're not as funny as some of these others that I can't share.
That's for the after hours.
One was we had just been purchased out of bankruptcy, and I'm going to protect the
Nothing
names
says
for now.
party like a bankruptcy.
The purchaser was, we were in Vegas and at his hotel, and he made the comment about being worth, and I'm gonna screw this up. I don't remember what his worth was at that point, but it was like, let's call it 14.3 billion.
Yeah, with a B.
Yeah, with a B. And somebody
They made
up
a movie
front,
about that guy.
Yeah, they did. No, they did.
Yeah.
Somebody up front snickered at his stressing of the 0.3. He's like 14.3 billion. And Johnny Toothless up front was like, 0.3. And he's like, son, do you know that effing 0.3 represents $300 million? He's like, get the F out of here. Tossed him. Tossed him. Rolled him up out of there. Like, I don't even need you on this playground.
I would have loved to have witnessed the after action review meeting of it. Like, all right, listen. I know you're an asshole. You really took it to another notch when Carl had to call you out.
That's
That's
exactly
awesome.
right. So that was pretty funny.
I truly don't have one that I can tell. Like, I don't.
We had another one that
Like, he's looking at me like,
that
I
was,
don't. Like,
that was
surely
very
come up with one
like
sort of
it was kind of hangover like, in the fact that one of the regional VPs who had like a banner year was supposed to, like, we would always go over like year like our stuff, year in review, and here's what's going to happen this year, whatnot. And he no-showed it. Yeah, I mean, like, no-showed it and no-showed it,
Like, struggled from
and
the
like
night before,
what,
no-showed
like
it?
nobody knew where he was for like 2 days.
That's awesome.
And he didn't show up on a mattress on top of the hotel or anything.
He
but
just rolled back
he,
in.
He just went back home. Like, he just said,
I'm done.
"This is so
It's
bad.
gone so bad, I'm out.
I'm out of here."
Pulling the ripcord.
But he was number one that year, so he could kind of
kinda
pull it
do it,
off.
yeah.
Yeah, he had some protection.
I got one that's the tail end of a story, and I'm just going to leave the middle part out. But we had a big sales kickoff, and it was at Disney World. At the
Really?
Yeah, I know, but it was like at the, what do they call that, Fantasy Island? Or
These are
whatever,
family
like
events. What are we
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Ryan would have been so screwed. He would have been at right anything.
Yeah. You're so there was one of the nicer, like, I guess, whatever the
they got
Disney
kids'
resorts. Yeah. One of he could ride some of them.
It's a small world.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, you don't have to be tall to ride the boat. The guy. So we were making a lot of money at the time. We weren't making enough money, I guess, that everybody could have their own room. So they, like, you pair up with, like, so it's like me and another guy that I work with.
Yeah, it's
weird. I always thought it was weird.
Like that, it's weird.
So quickly you pick who you want to room with, because I'm like, I'm going to room with this guy. So the guy I room with decided just to tie one on, like an exceptional level of tying one on, to the point that at one point I'm like, hey man, I'm going to leave, like, that night to whatever, was at the end of the evening's events. And that was probably conservatively 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I called him at, like, I don't know, 4, and I'm like, hey, you coming back here? And he's like, like, all this noise. I'm like, whatever. I wake up. Yeah, I wake up.
I take that as a no.
Yeah, and I was like, whatever, I go to bed. I wake up to him walking into the room, and it's light out. But it's one of these places that's got like an indoor courtyard that's, you got like a pseudo balcony that's like maybe 12 inches deep or whatever, and it's like a set of French doors that go out to a balcony. Which, mind you, when he came home, there are people like wheeling their little suitcases down these little cobblestone paths or whatever to check out in the morning with their children. It's Disney World. He opens the French doors and pees down into the thing.
Pretty sure the
Lincoln,
room
I
had
know a
bathroom
couple guys
too,
like
right?
that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know anything. I'm like, after that, I had to, and he was in there. Oh God, I forgot the best part. So he comes to the meeting. He makes it like after the breakfast part. He skips the breakfast part, so he comes down at 9 or whatever, and then he's like, and he gets up and goes, like, because you're at like these double top tables, like you're doing like science projects or something. He takes off and he's gone back and forth the whole day from the
Throwing
table
up?
to the. And he's like, I don't know, something. I got something. I ate something. I'm like,
Food poisoning.
really? Yeah. It was just like
It was the shrimp.
something's not right. Something's not sitting right.
The shrimp, man.
I'm like, dude, you're green. Like, I see what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the tail end of a. I can't tell any of the rest of them. I mean,
Well,
ugh.
obviously we could tell a lot of stories about
Shenanigans.
this. I was mainly using this as a setup because
I see. Do you get what
it's
you
that
wanted
time.
out
Well,
of it?
it's that time of year, right? Most kickoffs, beginning of the year, happens a lot, right? I mean, we're getting ready to have our kickoff tomorrow. It won't be anything like what we just talked about, right? It'll be 2 hours in our office, and we'll go to a local place, have some appetizers and drinks, and everybody will go home.
Somebody might
Which
show
is
their ass,
probably
the
the way,
backside, but not the front.
probably the way it should be, right? Anyway, destination things, I guess they're fine. Frankly, they seem
Just an away game is typically
they seem like
bad
a
news.
terrible idea based on the little experience I
It's
had.
nothing
with
but
them.
a boondoggle.
That's
It
pretty
truly
much
is,
what
yeah.
it is, right? It'd be better to just say that, like to have the sales trip where you get rewarded for selling or whatever, and just go and have fun.
People come in
don't
hot.
pretend
Don't worry
like
about
it's don't pretend like it's something that it's not, right?
You got to have a couple meetings just to write it off.
Well,
right?
I guess. I mean, then but even then, say we're just doing this for the write-off.
Yeah.
Just
you don't
show
actually,
up.
You don't actually have to do anything.
Yeah.
We just come in and listen for 15
We're
minutes
gonna
or
meet
whatever.
at 9 on Monday, and then 10:30 on Monday, and then you can do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
Do the rest
Yeah.
of
I
it.
mean, that would probably be more honest. Be more honest for sure. But I wanted to talk about that, but then also I want to talk about QBRs, quarterly business reviews as well, which I was not planning on talking about, but we had one today with one of our vendors.
accidentally or on purpose?
No, it was on purpose, and it was just not good.
Yeah.
It
Tell
was
us
really
about it.
bad. And so I was thinking about, for the folks listening who have to endure QBRs from vendors and from us, first off, I'm hoping ours are better than that one. If they're not, then we've got a lot of work to do. In fact, now I want to sit in on a couple just because of
Make
that.
sure that we're
Yes,
not doing it
because
that
was
way?
goddamn terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible.
And I don't want anybody to have to endure that. But I wanted to talk about that seriously. When you think about it, you guys are the founders of this company. When you think about a QBR, you've done a bunch of them with clients before Plow and at Plow. What are they, and what makes them? Why do we do them? Like, what should someone expect if they get asked by a vendor or a provider, hey, we want to do a quarterly business review? What should they expect? Why are they at the meeting? What should they get out of it? Right?
I'm giving this to Cameron because you love this. Like, this is your
QBRs.
Well, you just love like the building the origin.
Because I'm happy to say why I thought today was a complete waste of time for us.
I can give you my perspective
but
of what
I
it was. We
wanna
haven't
hear-
even talked about it yet. But
you and I were both on it,
yeah,
so you know what I'm talking about.
Well, you saw how valuable it was to me. I got
he
up and walked
left.
around
Yeah,
for a
he
while
just-
and
he just went to do something
I was
else.
judging the success of it by the look on your face and the
Yes.
couple comments you made. So, unbelievable. By the way, that silent sneeze was exceptional. Good job. Sometimes. So
Wizard behind the curtain over
yeah,
there.
sometimes those will go out the other end if you're not careful. If you keep them that quiet, good job. Hey,
After hours.
if you're going, correct. If you're going to take somebody's time, you ought to. To me, there ought to be some sort of an exchange of value between the two of you. Like, I mean, even if you're going into it, here's the bottom line. This is all I'm going to say about it. And this is to what we had earlier. If you're going to trap somebody under the guise of a, quarterly business review, 90 minutes of your time, only to force sell them something, that's
That's not a
that's
quarterly
like
business
that's like
review.
a bait and switch. Like, it
Yes.
sucks. Like, you're supposed to be there reviewing, talking about, give us some feedback. Where have we done well? Where have we done wrong? What do you need more of? What do you need less of? Where are you headed so that we can prepare the next 90 days out, so we're not scrambling at the last second to try to make sure we've got what we need for you, the way you need it, et cetera. And, vice versa too. Like, that's what it's intended to be. Not, hey, I'm going to trap you under this false pretense and then screw you over and over and over with a bunch of shit you don't care to hear about. Trying to somehow force sell you something.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like
we
would never knowingly participate in something like that.
Yeah, it's not. I guess at the end of the day, to me, a quarterly business review is not. It's not really about selling. Right?
It shouldn't be.
It's 100% not about selling.
It's not about selling. I
Really?
mean, if something comes out of that has a need,
Great,
then
good.
fine. But
Yeah.
that's not what it's for, right?
And it probably will. I mean, really, it goes back to, if you're doing it right, and we've talked about this a lot, it goes back to an annual plan, right? And having a conversation around an annual
exactly
plan
right.
as to what we're trying to accomplish over the course of the year, and setting milestones and dates and things like that in place with the client to say, so you can go back and see how we're tracking. Why did we not hit this? Why did we miss this? What priorities changed internally that pushed this out? Did it indefinitely push it out? And what's taking its place? Yeah. Like, to me, it's those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and to be fair to the vendor today, they're not a service provider to us. They're a product provider, and that and I make a distinction there on purpose because
It's different.
in a lot of ways, if the products are doing what they're supposed to do, I mean, one of the things you brought up that you would do in a QBR, and I know our folks do, right, is look at tickets, ask about experiences. We're having a lot of touch points with the kind of people that we have QBRs with, right? These are managed services clients. We're doing stuff for them daily, weekly, all the time. It's very likely that for a product vendor, right, you buy something, you're using it. Maybe you have a need for support. Maybe you don't. Maybe it just does the job. You don't really need to. There's not really much to do from a quarterly business standpoint, so review standpoint. So honestly, I don't. These guys shouldn't be doing QBRs. You know why they're doing it? Because they're told to do it because they want you to get in front and try to sell something. Which is back to the point. It's not a QBR. It's a damn sales check-in. Right.
It's that whole bullshit virtual CIO in the managed services space. Like, we're going to sit down your virtual CIO who's 24 and doesn't even understand the technology that you're using today is coming to you because engineering pre-sale said, hey, position these two things.
We did have 25th birthday.
This is what we're doing now, right?
What'd you say?
He didn't have 25th birthday for another year. You obviously don't know shit. But yes, precisely.
All right. Well, we don't have to beat that horse much. Let's do it.
Speak the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's get him.
Let's go.
There's times, though, where I'm sure that our QBRs suck, too, from time to time. I mean, because but it's what Law said. It's for lack of a plan. Like, if you don't sit down and do the quarterly, you're not shoring up to any sort of watermark that you've set out there or expectation. So you're doing what you're supposed to do. And kudos to our team. I've seen, like, for example, Jana call a customer and be like, "We don't need to do this QBR because we're just not
that's
where
what
we
you
need
should
to be
do.
with something."
That's what you should do. If you don't have anything real to talk about,
don't waste their time.
Don't waste their damn time.
And we actually enlist the customer as a part of that discussion too.
100%.
We've gotten away from the term QBR. Now it's just a business review. And the customer helps decide how often they do it.
Yeah, how often.
They might want to do something monthly from a service perspective, like from a service ops perspective. And they might want to do something every 6 months as it relates to a true business review. It just really comes down to
that might be enough.
How much movement is taking place,
especially if you've got enough conversation going on around the other things, right? Because anyway,
it's the sales check-in under the guise of a
since
different name.
we just had one, I figured we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, it's a check the box kind of thing in some organizations, right? Like it's something you have to do, right? You have to run.
Well, you're not a sales organization. You know how it is. I mean,
100%. Hey, account manager said we did our QBRs.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they suck sometimes, Link.
Okay. Yes, I know. I know this.
You just sat through one. You'll never. Here's the thing: when you're lying on your deathbed, I hope you can remember all the QBRs you sat through and all that time of your life being wasted. That's what happens.
I want to try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we won't do that again. But that's a different issue. Well, I want to circle back a little bit to kind of the kickoff piece, just since we've got ours coming up tomorrow, right? We do an annual
weather permitting.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, it won't snow again.
Second time.
We got this is a do-over from last week. And thinking about, the three of us have put a pretty good bit of time into thinking about the plan for 2024. What do we want to try to achieve? How do we think we can maybe make that happen? What might that mean?
What we will achieve, Link.
Greatness.
Okay. All right.
Sure, greatness.
I like it. You're going Yoda style.
Yeah. You know what I always find, though, just as an aside, because I like to throw you off on these things.
Speaking of getting thrown off,
these are brand new chairs.
We're enjoying our new chairs.
It's after hours, dude.
No touch.
I've been wanting to do that for 10 minutes. I almost got you while you were drinking. I thought, man,
and I was watching, and he went because I didn't see your foot.
I missed it the first time.
It's always good to look at things from Ryan's perspective, though. So
wrong.
Nail him.
Killing the poor guy. He's never here to defend himself.
What I was going to say was, I always feel like when it comes time to finally present on the QBR, on the kickoff, I don't care anymore because we've already put all the work and the effort into it from like a month ago when we finally get around to telling people about it. I'm like, this is old news. Like, I'm already moving on.
Literally, it was November when we really put the stuff together.
Yeah.
So I always lose a little bit of enthusiasm going into it. I have to kind of hype myself up because I'm like, this is like we're already in the middle of it.
It's kind of like done.
Yeah. Now. That said, we're talking, even though we've delayed a week, we're still within the month of January. I think last year we did our kickoff in like March.
No, it wasn't that
It was February.
Was it February?
It always feels way late.
And we probably crammed at the last second to even get it done.
Correct.
Where this could have been done anytime in the last 8 weeks.
We could have done it before the beginning of the year.
The first couple weeks of January was tough, but anyway.
I think the other piece of it is audience too. It's like you get so caught up in what you're presenting that you sometimes, we talked about this earlier today, you forget who your audience is.
So in which case you appreciate what in the presentation?
Brevity.
Right word.
Those of you that have not been around Bryan Law all day today, he has said the word brevity at least 95 times.
I think he got
it's like
one of
he
those
just
Mike
learned
Tyson
it today.
I did. I'm doing the Tyson thing.
Ludicrous is the word of the day.
Yeah. Punches like a fucking mule kick, man. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous. You can punch it so hard.
I mean, with kickoffs, and thinking about it, I was thinking about ours and I thought it might be helpful for us to talk some about kind of how we are thinking about 2024, maybe to help others who are in the same boat. Maybe they're either just getting ready to go, getting ready to do the same thing. Hopefully they've already completed their planning process, so they're not behind the eight ball like we were.
It's never too late.
But that's not necessarily always true, right? Depends on, some people have to wait till they have year-end numbers. There's a lot of reasons why getting the 2024 plan together, is a bit of a time crunch. But when you were thinking about, so maybe even rewind back to November and let's kind of think about the last couple of months and the thinking process, again, as a way of trying to give a window to others who are maybe wrestling with these same sorts of issues. What sort of, when you guys first started thinking about it, what were some of the key initiatives that you were thinking about that were sort of front of mind to you as you started to think about 2024?
Outside of ending where 2023 was going to
setting
end.
aside, like, here we financial, like coming up with financial goals. Obviously there's a alchemy there, right? It's not, well, we did X, we're going to do X plus whatever percent. I mean, you can do it that way, but like that's not. I was thinking more like, as you think about where the business was, what was on your mind as we started going into that process?
I'll start.
And I've thought about this too, so I'm happy to jump in at some point along the way too.
I think it was, from my perspective, it was talking about how we could become more efficient operationally, right, and find some money we're spending already today that we don't necessarily have to spend by doing it more efficiently, better. And then the other piece was really conversations around scale and what products and services could we provide that would help us grow our revenue and not have to grow our resources, our employees, our tools, et cetera. So trying to separate those two lines and create a little bit more width between revenue and expenses.
Right.
Well, the good news is we're on the same page. I mean, I was going to say efficiency and scale are really the two things that we're it's efficiency, scale, and finding that through focus. Like, where are we good? What are we good at? Where are things that are sort of on the periphery? And listen, it's a tough thing. I mean, we're big enough as a business. It doesn't feel so like, you don't feel so naked, like saying no to something. Like, in the early days, you're like, yeah, we'll do whatever. Now we're kind of like, I mean, I had a customer ask me today, or a prospect, it's a guy I've known for years, but to say, tell me what you guys do. And I was able to basically say, like, you know what? There's some things. Thanks. I was like, appreciate it. I was like, there's a number of things we do, but really I can put them in three buckets, and this is how it goes. This is what we're good at. And so, it left people resonating on that, and that comes out of that planning process. And I've got friends that own businesses, and they talk about the planning and coming up with revising business plans and everything else. And the thing I always tell them, not that we know for sure, but it's the plan really doesn't matter. Like, it's the act of going through planning that really is a value. Even if the numbers, they're bullshit numbers anyway. We all know that. I mean, anybody that says this is exactly what we're going to do, like, you're stupid. That is not how it goes, unless you've already gotten the bag, in which case you're just lying to everybody anyway. So, like,
it's called sandbags.
Yeah, right. So, correct. So, I think it's I always try to look at it kind of like you said, Law. I always take the perspective of what are we doing really well, what do we suck at, what do we have to be good at, what do we doesn't matter if we're good at, and then really is how can we get the most return out of our invested capital, and by capital I don't just mean cash, but time, effort, people, et cetera, and then where and how can we expand and reduce risk. I mean, that's kind of how we look at it. But for ours, it was efficiency and scale. I mean, those are really the two core things we're trying to achieve. Now, what does that look like when you start to put it in a plan? It's as simple as initiatives, timelines to hit those initiatives. You got to establish your tact on it. And, we're probably going to be wrong on 30% of it. I mean, that's just how it is. I think if you
Just don't
expect
know
it
which
to be
third.
perfect. Yeah, right. I mean, everybody sits back and loses. I see a lot of leaders sit back and lose their mind when it's not going to plan. I'm like, chill out. Like first of all, you made the plan. You're the one that's wrong. Easy. Like just, stuff doesn't always go to plan. Like, you can make it up somewhere else too. If you've got any diversity in your business, that's by design. And so, yeah, I mean, the other thing I was thinking, I was really proud of us that we were getting it done in November.
Yeah.
Like,
That was good.
Kudos to Link.
yeah,
Link
that's
drove
Link
that.
pushed that. You drove that because these two clowns on this side of the table would be out. We'd be like, nah, it's tomorrow. It's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm certainly time blind. I think Law's a little time blind, but
For sure.
like, so we'd be sitting here in February and be like, we got to get this plane together, So that was good.
It was I felt like it was a good session because it was non-urgent, important at that time period, right? So that quadrant, similar to a conversation I was having with a customer today, they're looking to vet, a big service, and that's the quadrant they're in right now. I think when you're there, like you can really focus more. It's not like shit, I just got to get something out the door.
Yeah.
And I feel like previously in my previous career, there was a lot of stuff that was just basically handed down, right, to some degree. And it didn't matter what level, you were in the organization, there was still a hand down that was taking place. And it's like, where's this coming from? And it was frustrating because it's just like, man, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's just what we need to go do. And so I do think that
No buy-in.
I now have I look at things differently, and I'm like, I try to be a little bit more realistic with it. Back in the past, I'd have just been like, okay, let's just get it done. Let's just go make it happen and get it done.
Maybe we just give you a big number and just move on. Yeah. You don't get to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was thinking, listening to y'all talk, because we never talked about that before we got together, started doing planning in terms of what was key in your mind. I mean, obviously, we talk all the time, so it's not like that's a surprise, but we didn't really talk about it. For me, it was related, but it was about, I mean, we're not a big company, right? But we're much bigger than we were when I got here, right? We're almost 50 people now. When I started, we were like 15, right?
That's crazy.
I mean, it's hard to believe that. But like my big thing coming in this year, and we'd already made some changes in this direction, was how do we reduce complexity as we get bigger? And that's directly related to what you guys just said.
Efficiency
and scale, right?
Itself,
as we get bigger, entropy takes over, right? I mean, the push to complexity is really hard to fight as you get bigger. You have to actively work against it. And obviously the person on the operational side, I'm thinking about that. And I think some of the steps we've made will help us as we get bigger, because we've made some things to simplify the way things are structured internally. I don't know how long that'll last. We'll see. It may become a problem for us at some point, but certainly I don't think so in the near term. But that was what was key in my mind. Is I thought I want to push. I know I want to be mindful of time, and three of us can talk about this shit forever. So,
I was thinking forever.
On the flip side, coming out of we weren't all the way through 23, but we were close. We knew we were having a good year, but we're going into 24. What were fears and concerns on your minds? What were you worried about? And I shouldn't say what are the concerns as we sit here mid-January?
I mean, one of the things they don't tell you when you start a business is that you're going to have to get comfortable with having a perpetually cramped butthole. Like you're always worried about everything, every single thing. And as we change the mix of our business a little bit, there's different cash flow tendencies. There's new clients that we don't know how they pay. There's new exposure and risk in the lines of business we take on because they required different cash cycles and that kind of thing. Historically as an organization, we've never borrowed money. We may be in a position where, as we scale quickly, you have to look at maybe leveraging other capital outside of your cash in your coffers, and that sort of stuff makes me just not nervous, but just uncomfortable. It's nothing weird or different. And, frankly, sometimes maybe we don't borrow money, and that's stupid too. We should. So, who knows, right?
Maybe. But that's a choice, though. That's part of the reason you don't borrow money or have investors.
So that you do have a choice.
It doesn't matter if it's stupid or not. It's your choice.
Yeah, right. And so, I lose a little sleep over that. The other thing I worry about is, we've done a good job of reducing our concentration of specific clients, being like, if that customer gets sideways, this whole place goes apart. Like we don't have that as much anymore. But you do have people tied to certain lines of service.
Sure.
And that always concerns me is that, if this little bit of business goes away, well, then these 5 guys don't have a job, or and you know their names, and so it becomes more personal. Even with 50 people, we still try to know, who all everything affects, and I think we still take a great degree of personal responsibility for how the organization takes care of things, and so that I lose sleep over that sometimes. Yeah. You should really get a couch if we're going to have these sort of counseling sessions. So,
you didn't know we were going right. Yeah, skull
going
session.
deep. Yeah,
I said the thing that I would add is just the people. Like it's retention. Keeping the people that you've got, that you've invested in, that want to be here.
People helping people.
People helping people. People helping people. Nobody jokes that way.
That's a good jokes like that.
But no, it is. I mean, it really is. There is less of a concern over a single client, and we got to continue to do better there.
Yeah.
And then there's just there's the uncertainty of maybe some people that we partner with that we have to use the word partner, and they don't necessarily use the word partner, right?
Yeah.
They could make a change on a dime and really, impact things.
Oh,
that's,
for sure.
That'd be the other thing I would say that,
Yeah, buckets of risk. What's funny, if you'd asked us that question, say 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the stuff we worry about rarely if ever happens. But it is the most paralyzing thing as leaders is that you do lose sleep over these things. And sometimes you make decisions and you don't make decisions based on that worry and that concern. Looking back on it, I don't think there's anything we've ever worried about that actually happened.
No, I think you're right.
Well, not any kind of cataclysmic way.
Yeah,
of course not.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You've lost good people. You've lost people you were glad to lose, right?
Yeah.
You've had clients that walked away, right? There's always, not many,
stuff.
but there's always things that happen. But
the
way you put them in your mind is different.
But the things that you lose sleep over, rarely if ever do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, we used to have somewhere we had like a little worry board. Remember we wrote it up somewhere, and that may have been that damn whiteboard there for all I remember, but we wrote up a bunch of stuff and put a date next to it. And you realize a year later, like, none of that shit ever happens. You just don't let it paralyze you.
I think what's the most impactful stuff has been like people that have transitioned out that in our minds was impactful, and you're like, oh my God, then what
How are we going to do it?
And
it's a blessing.
It ended up being just an unbelievable blessing.
Yeah.
They ended up in a better spot. We ended up in a better spot. Yeah. It's kind of hard to see
Such
when
is life
you're
sometimes.
in the trees sometimes.
So I guess the last thing on this I'd ask you, and it's not skull session, but it's a little bit, it's related, but it's different. And that's, you generally think of planning in an annual cycle, right? That's the year's annual, blah, blah, blah. You file your taxes, whatever. And so
that's weird, isn't it?
It is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's made up, right?
It's just a date on the calendar.
We just picked, it's just made, it's completely artificial. And the business is evergreen. There's we're not killing this thing. The goal's not to, we're shutting the doors 12/31/24. So what are we going to do between now and then, right?
I agree.
Longer term perspectives. I mean, obviously we're doing a kickoff. We're going to share goals tomorrow for 2024, right? We met in November. We talked about our goals, but we also had some conversations about longer term goals. And I'm just curious, as you guys, how do those factor into your thinking? And how does anybody listening, how do you sort of bring those together, right? I mean, obviously the annual goals should fit into the longer term goals, but a lot of times that tail wags that dog. And so I'm just curious how you guys think about that.
On that.
Not yet.
I mean, so I will. So we do.
I figured as much.
Yeah, thanks, man. So we're big believers of rock habits and that sort of methodology. There's nothing. I shouldn't take it away from it. There's a lot of good in it, but some of it's just common sense stuff. You look at a 10-year plan, and that's always this 10 years to, I think most everybody's way out in the future. I mean, we've been around for 12 years at this. Our 10-year plan should have come and gone.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it has. And so, but it does put you in a frame of mind where you think way out ahead. And then you start to break it down to bite-sized chunks, 5 years, 3 years, you annually amongst those 3 years, things start to become more concrete, more specific, more tactical within those things. Your quarterly, your annual kickoffs should be somewhere along that same, I'd say 5-year trajectory, 5-year horizon, 3-year trajectory, right? And you kind of reverse engineer those things to happen. To me, there's still, at least for us, there seems to be a lack of specific glue that ties a 1 to a 3 and a 3 to a 5 and a 5 to a 10. Yeah. Because 3 years come and go like water under a bridge.
Because the 1's still so fluid.
That's what I'm saying. Because you're still in the middle of the 1, and so that should be your quarterlies, your monthlies, your weeklies, your dailies. But you end up. It's tough. It's tough to stay focused on those things. I look at them. I look at them all the time. I look at them damn near daily. But it's you have to almost reverse engineer your day's activities to say, is what I'm doing contributing to that day, that week, that month, that quarter, that year, and so on and so forth. So, but we're all mired down in tactical. We sacrifice the urgent for the important, and we sacrifice the important for the urgent. And, controlling that's probably the biggest key to planning and success. But
Law, how do you think about that?
No, I think
because I got a thought on that one, but it's a little different.
Very similar to that, actually. I think it's tough to stay focused on, the instrument panel when you're in the. Like when you're fighting when you feel like you're fighting for your life sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's an extreme example, but that's kind of how it feels. Like when you're down and you've got 4 things to turn around today, whatever it may be, that turns into tomorrow and turns into the next day, and next thing you know, it's 2 months, and it's like shit. We haven't.
If you're an individual contributor at any level, like if you've got direct responsibility for the output of something, that is for sure exaggerated. Like that, that's a real thing. We still have that here too. Granted, we've got a lot of resources around us, but we still turn stuff around ourselves, and you get tactically busy.
Yeah.
Did we even answer your question? I feel like maybe
you did. I mean, I was thinking about the long term, and I was thinking of it a little differently in the sense of you mentioned like a 10-year plan, and like. My initial reaction to the idea of a 10-year plan is I laugh.
It's horse shit,
right? Yeah. I'm like, well, that's a joke. But then I stop and I
but
think,
it's an ethereal exercise, right?
Then I stop because I think, well, that's not a 10-year plan. Plan's maybe the wrong word, right? It's more like a charter or a directional indicator, right? Said. Like, and for you guys and for me now, part of this, right? Really, this is what kind of business do you want to have, right? Because there's some statements you can make today, January 2024. That are you could feel pretty confident about saying these are probably the kinds of things that these are statements I'm willing to make about what I want the future to be like, where I would like to try to go, and they don't have anything to do with growing 15% or whatever. Like that's not really what it's about. But when we think of a plan or when we talk about a plan, that's immediately where we go to. And no disrespect to Rock Habits, it's very tangible. That's why it's so good. But you can see it. They transition to longer term pieces to more aspirational goals, right? It's almost like self-actualization, right? It isn't really about like I want to be at 32 million in revenue and have that's not because like nobody knows what that is. I mean, hell, that's almost impossible. We've just said that doing that in a 1 year time frame is you're making that up. Like you don't know what the wrong 30% is or whatever it is. 10 years is impossible. But I think the two of you can sit together and say, if we're going to keep doing this, well, I think we want to keep doing this. Right. I don't know for how long, but we want to keep doing this. And if we do, we want it to look like X, meaning we're probably not going to take outside money unless something very unusual changes. Our goal, we want to keep being in these kinds of businesses because we have experience there. We like these people. We like doing this stuff. Yep. You can make statements like that at least provide orientation for you more than a plan. That's kind of how I was thinking of it. But then the year comes back into that because you can get off of that if you get mired, if you get too focused on these other little things. They're almost like North Stars. Maybe that's. I was
going to say usually, and this is going to sound corny as hell, but it's like purpose driven, right?
I wasn't trying to get too touchy, but it kind of
gives
is.
You purpose. And that's 5 years gives you tact. And
at some point, it's not just about building the pile bigger. It's like, what do you want it to be?
Why?
Yeah. What's the reason?
Correct. Yeah. So I think that is a key and critical component to planning. And frankly, we did that this year for the first time collectively in a long time. And I think that probably gave some maybe haste or motivation behind some of the planning we've done. So, yeah.
Last question before we wrap up with a fun one. Maybe it'll be fun. You might think it's stupid.
Here we go. Fun.
Yeah, I know, right? We spent we got our kickoff tomorrow. We spent a bunch of time trying to think about the team sitting in front of us. what do we want them to get out of it, right? And what do we think they can get out of that, right? And so I started this whole thing by bitching about a QBR where it was pretty clear, no offense to the guys that organized it, but they weren't real interested in what I was trying to get out of that. They were way more interested in what they were trying to get out of it.
They had a script they were sticking to.
Correct. How is the best way to think about that in terms of and how to execute it for the seats that we sit in, because we don't sit in the same seat as our team. And even though we're small, it's still a long way from the day-to-day thinking and working that we do to our frontline guys, right? What do you guys, between now and tomorrow at 1:00, whenever we start, what are you going to be thinking about to try to make sure that those guys get what we want them to get out of that meeting? Because if I'm listening to this, that's what I would want to hear. What are some ideas for how to make sure I don't fuck that up and basically make the meeting me talking to myself and each other? Because we don't need to have it if we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Relevance.
I say,
and you can't use brevity.
Yeah, I was going to say brevity.
Yeah.
Be bright, be brief, be gone, make them feel like they're a part of it, right? Because they are. And just know that they're contributing to something that's growing, it's fun, and we're just going to get better and leave with that. Like, I don't want to take them through the mire and the muck of a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, because I've sat in too many of those, and I've been a part of too many of those.
I think you nailed it with that was good. I forgot how you nailed it, but you did nail it. It was
be brief, be gone.
It was about relevant. Contribution. It's about anything we tell them in the context of it being relevant.
They're
is
part of it.
What do you need to know to feel and I don't say feel because that acts like it's artificial, but to feel connected to what you're contributing to. You can get in there and you can make the donuts all day long and feel like you're going nowhere. Like it's like, this is what we're doing, and this is how what you're doing matters to what's going on here. And how if you pull that lever, this thing happens, and that's what we're trying to achieve. My goal is always to connect those dots for people, to the extent I can, and not make it irrelevant to the other 49 people in the room. So
I think the welcome just got reshaped.
Yeah.
I think he just asked a question that forced us to think through something that's super important, and I'm sure purposefully.
Brevity.
Yeah, brevity.
I'm just going to say, hey, listen, 90% of what we're about to say here doesn't matter to 90% of you. So,
but it should, though.
Lay it on your phones. We'll talk to you in an hour.
The reality is,
we know you don't care, but we're going to tell you anyway.
What's
that's
important?
what we're trying to avoid.
Right. What is important? What's important? Core values are important.
Yeah.
Who we are as an organization.
We're starting out that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. That's first.
How these guys contributed, and that led to the company's success
what
in
our goals were,
Q4
how we got there.
specifically, to the profit share. That's going to be important to everybody. Everybody's going to want to know what that looks like.
And why.
People are going to want to know high level what we did in 2023 against measurable goals. People are going to care a little bit about at least setting the expectation of what we're going to do in 2024. If we get in the weeds there, that's where we get in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
we'll
our
get
risk.
in trouble in 2024. Like,
it's hard. It's hard for us because we are in the weeds. That is where we're in the weeds and they're not. It's the inverse. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's the inverse.
And then wrap that bitch up, man.
And take questions.
Yeah.
And ask. Ask whatever you want.
That's right.
Right. I mean, transparency from that standpoint. I mean,
I do know that more of a transparent organization than a lot of people work
I think
in,
so.
if I had to guess.
I think so.
I would agree with that.
I know we are.
There's very little we don't share, and if you ask a question outside of what does Bob make instead of Tom, you ain't gonna get that answer. But you probably distill it out the other questions.
Anyway, they figure that out anyway.
Yeah, they all kind of know anyway. But the point is, it's like there's not a lot of secrets around here, and so but. Asking for shits and giggles is one thing, but asking because I want to know because it will help me make decisions and feel empowered. Now that's the reason. And so, okay, there's my answer. If you want to know what they leave with, empowerment.
They're important and they're empowered to make decisions.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah. And I mean, I think about, to me, the profit sharing stuff and the sharing around that informationally, right, is they are our partners in this. I mean, at the end of the day,
we can't do it without them.
We don't make any profits.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go find a client. I can help
come
up with some ideas for organization. I don't actually do it.
Right.
I mean, these guys
I told
are
you he's
our
just
partners.
a freaking drain on the bottom line. I told you. He just said it.
No, I said we all.
I don't do anything.
I told you.
Make a couple suggestions.
Is this a great country or what?
That's awesome.
What a
I mean,
bunch
like
of
Janet
idiots
just
those
drinking
two
coffee.
are.
Yeah.
He's like, shit, the cat's out of the bag.
Oh, they're gonna listen to this and be like, "See, I knew those motherfuckers
Told
didn't
you.
do anything."
Told you. It's awesome.
Oh my god.
Oh, anyway. All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
About damn time.
I could have been
The weather has been crappy as all get out here
Oh,
in
my
Nashville.
God.
Fortunately,
You
missed
avoided
it. Yeah, North Carolina, where I was.
You were
2
getting ready to
hours
drive
north.
through it. You didn't know what you were getting into.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't, but it was. You could still see it, but it was. It
I
was
told
clear.
Leanne, I was like,
Man, what a week,
Not
though.
let
I was
them
like,
drive
dude, this
over
guy
here.
can't. They can't drive back.
She
No,
was like-
I was gonna go.
I know you were.
Yeah, I was-
She said
That's why I
she
sent
goes,
you that
he
note. I
likes
was
driving in those mountain roads in the snow. I was
Screw
like, he's
that.
an idiot
Yeah.
on this one. Like,
No, that was not it. So the weather is shitty as it is. I don't know about. I'm figuring. I know you got out and about, and I'm guessing you probably hunkered down a decent amount.
Yeah.
But you got trucks and shit since you're a redneck. So
Yeah.
any good books or TV shows you guys have seen recently that you think people ought to check out?
You know, I'm struggling with this one. I haven't fully endorsed it, but I've watched enough to act like it. I fully endorsed it. Reacher.
Oh yeah.
Reacher.
What
Yeah,
is that?
Like, so it's off the movie. Apparently, Tom
Well,
Cruise made a
it's a set
Jack
of books.
Reacher.
Yeah, I forget
Oh, is
the
that what
guy.
it is?
Yeah.
Set of books.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, maybe I'm
man,
blind to this.
it's one of those that's like you look at it and you go, "Damn, that was so cheesy." What he just said, but somehow you're like, but he kind of pulled it off at the same time. It's like it's one of those. It's not quite like watching a train wreck.
Right.
But there's elements of it, to it. But it keeps you in enough.
It's a series? Like they've
Yeah, it's a
made it
series.
to-
Yeah, it's a series. But that's really it because we were, running around. There wasn't a whole lot of downtime, outside of maybe watching a little bit of football too. That was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This weekend was
sports
good.
year.
Yeah.
Wild card weekend sucked.
Yeah. it
This
did.
weekend
Yeah,
was
it
good.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So,
Let's see. I didn't read a single book. I didn't turn on the TV, but I did watch a movie sometime during all that I thought was odd and interesting. And it was surprising. It was produced, and we'll see if it was truly produced by, but at least on paper, it was produced by Michelle and Barack Obama. And
Dude,
it's called Another World or
It's
something
terrible.
like that.
Leaving the world behind.
Is that what it is?
Leaving the world behind.
Okay. I didn't find it terrible. I found it weird.
I found it weird, terrible. Oh, you can't say that the way it ended, it wasn't terrible.
I thought it was.
I think he just did.
You
know
okay
what?
with the ending?
We're talking about the same one, right? Where like technology takes over.
No.
Okay, y'all have convinced me we're talking about two different movies here.
The one I'm
Y'all are
talking about
literally
had
gaslighting each other. This
had
Yeah.
Pretty Woman in it. What's her name?
Julie Roberts. We're
Yeah.
talking about the same movie.
Yeah.
Are you sure y'all watched the same movie?
Yeah.
And all the Tetris.
Yeah. That's when the
crashing
technology
into each
takes
other
over.
and
Yeah,
all
Tetris. Tesla.
Teslas. Yeah. Tetris.
You
see where my
officially
head's at.
gotten old. Like, all those Tetrises that were out driving around. Like, Jesus. So,
A nuclear
yeah,
explosion.
nuclear
Dude.
explosion.
That movie was
It was bonkers. It was bonkers.
so bad.
It was bad, but it really made me like it got me perplexed a little bit because
I
I
agree
feel
with
that
that.
way about this stuff
I
sometimes.
agree
I'm
with
like,
that.
I think this technology stuff's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, we had a guy had his car come try to pick him up from the front lawn
was
and it
out
took
there.
off and drove off without
Dude,
him.
I was
Remember he's freaking chasing
him to
after
do
it.
it. I told him I want to see it.
It's awesome. But
And
like
he almost,
Zier?
yeah.
but
And
if
he
you
almost went out in the middle of
if
Wilson
you
Pike.
understand this stuff, it's not
He
that
took
far.
off running,
He took off
man.
running like he's
Which
gonna
is
catch his car
awesome.
and grab it. It was awesome.
The fact that he was running was
He's like,
great.
"Oh, stop!"
I'm sitting here going, "Oh shit! What did I just do?"
And I can't imagine that run was very pretty. I'm just saying.
I don't know, man. My brother said the same thing. My brother was like, "I was good with it until the ending," and I'm like,
Yeah, the ending was somewhat lackluster, but it was sort
"It
of
was
a,
weird."
I like
So
things that
weird.
leave
Okay,
me
I
in a
wasn't
little
trying to
trouble.
start an argument. I was just
You
asking
should-
for
you
some
should-
feedback.
Just
So-
You
what
asked
tried
me to
do?
watch something interesting.
What about you, Lane?
Clearly
What'd
it
you
was
see?
interesting.
Yeah.
What'd you watch, Lane?
What'd you
What'd
do?
you read?
I'm in the middle of watching Slow Horses on Apple TV Plus.
Haven't even heard of
It's a British
I like a
crime
British,
spy show with Gary Oldman, who was Sirius Black.
the little
in
black guy from Different Strokes.
That's Gary Coleman.
Oh, okay.
What you talking about, Willis? Not that guy.
What'd you do, my Willis?
Yeah.
He's dead also. Yeah.
I saw a picture.
Ryan.
He's older than us. I mean, he was old.
picture of him.
You got him. Like he's literally can't
I'm
breathe.
trying to talk about Gary Oldman, and here we go.
You saw a picture of Gary Coleman?
Why?
You got him and see he can't breathe.
I don't know if laughter is good.
The plane.
Yeah,
The plane. The plane.
Yeah.
The Veneziano, I saw them together. Just the other day.
Is it like a picture from back in the day?
Why? I don't know what the deal was.
Oh, you saw it and it's getting you. Like, it's got you so tickled. Oh, God. She's like, I'm going to put in another battery in the stupid camera because you can't stop laughing.
That's ridiculous.
This is
So you're
early 80s memories there. Different strokes.
He's trying to go
Say
back.
Gary
He's trying to-
Coleman.
Yeah. Gary
Oldman.
Oldman. He's great. You should check it out if you like.
What's it
if you
called
like.
again?
It's called Slow Horses.
Different strokes.
It's really good.
Different
I'm on.
strokes.
It's 3 seasons. We're in season 2 right now. So 45 minutes an
I think
episode.
I'm going to
Mr.
watch
Drummond?
the Archie Bunker reruns.
Dude, shit, like, just keep it simple. Like,
Yeah.
go
Just go veg out.
Yeah.
Watch that. The Jeffersons.
oh, my God, the best.
Good Times.
The best.
There's a TV
Happy
station.
Days?
I have a TV station
Like,
that
I'm
shows
all
all
over
these
the
old
place right now.
shows.
Those are good. Those are all great, though.
TV Classic or something. You can go. I mean, they got Sanford and Son. They got them all.
Sanford Son's another great one.
Nick at Night.
Hey, you can't sing 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock,
no,
and
you
not
know.
get excited.
Oh, dude, it's
I feel
awesome.
like she's like, what are they talking
Dude,
about?
no, they're
It's the
great.
dumbest shit I've
She's
ever
never heard of Happy.
But it just gets you like
Yeah.
going, man.
Yeah.
All right, wrap it
Richie
up.
Cunningham. Yep.
Well, guys, thanks for the time for our listeners. We appreciate it. We look forward to more after hours coming
11 after.
down the pike at some point. We don't do it on a regular basis, so semi-regularly. You can expect more of this. Maybe
Thank
next
God.
time we'll.
We should do it.
I would
live.
say we'd be more
Thank the
irreverent,
Lord.
but I'm not sure that's possible.
We should do it live from a bar. Like, try to get like a quieter room, maybe. Let's
do it.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Because
like
I
it.
mean, y'all need some
And then
power,
that way we
right?
can just start asking people questions and just like impromptu.
God, could you imagine?
I mean,
Well, if they heard us for a while, they might start gathering around, going, "What the hell are those guys?"
Yeah,
doing over
true.
there?"
You remember the if you win the lottery question that was live, and
Oh yeah,
The guy in
That's
California?
So good, yeah, so good. Yep.
we might get some of that.
Yeah, we would for sure.
All
Corner
right.
pub.
With that,
I'm down.
thank you.
Yep. Thank y'all.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are enjoying the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would become a subscriber wherever you get your podcasts. And if you could rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, that would really help us out. Or you can just go old school and tell your friends, your family, your colleagues, and hell, anybody else who you think might want to hear something like this to listen in. If you're on social media, make sure to follow us on TikTok at CutTheShitPod, all one word, where we post lots of clips from the podcast. And last but not least, you can also watch the YouTube version of the show on our YouTube channel, at Plow Networks. Until next time, take care and have a great day.